All right, we're here to do our Verify quarterly sync. This is our opportunity to kind of kick off the quarter. Um, we're doing this to share our quarterly plans, to kind of reestablish our cadence for Verify as a team. What I would love to do is start this off with a fun fact to share. I'll get us started. So we finished mapping the first leg of our trip. So some of you may know that I am staying in a recreational vehicle, an RV, and we'll be traveling for 40 days. We'll start in July and go through the end of August. We'll be going all the way up to Montana, going through Colorado and Idaho and stopping along the way to hike, fish, and hang out. I'll pass it up to whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. I put a work one in too, but it's exciting that we're starting interviews for a designer. That'll be fun to get a designer back for Darren and I. And then kitchen remodel started. That's a link to yesterday's tweet. I am tweet storming this as we go. So day 9 was yesterday of officially having a crew in and doing stuff, and they rebuilt the wall. Used to be a funky half wall there between the level of the kitchen and the level of the family room, which is down half a flight of stairs. So you would like lean down and look down into one room from the other. So now that's all closed off, which is fun. So a couple more months waiting on cabinets and flooring, but we're started. We're excited.
Cool. I'll go next. I just did put a down payment for a new car, and I thought it would take me a while to sell my old one, but I started it like less than a week. I mean, opportunity came, so I didn't want to lose it. But now I have no car for the next I'll say like 2 months or so. But we'll manage.
My turn. I don't know if I have anything fun to share. I'm getting old. Last weekend I tried to mulch, like just do some mulching in the garden. Just only got 10 bags of mulch at Home Depot, only 10. And all I did was get them onto the cart, put them in the back of the SUV, drove it home, took one bag out each from the cart, and used the rake to mulch the front. And I was completely sore all freaking Saturday night. So I don't know if it's a fun fact to share, but hey, I'm just like I'm getting
Come
old.
on, Darren. 25 is not that old.
I love that. That is a fun fact. Perfect. That's some good news all around. Thank you all for sharing that. So diving on in, would love to hear a little bit about our quarterly plans. We've had a lot of stuff in Q1. With Verify, we've had several rapid actions. We had this new engineering allocation initiative in CI, particularly around CI scaling, which will, I think, shift to be less about this 20 million builds per day and maybe about queuing. This is like kind of like a breaking update, but I think that might come through today from Darby. I've linked our 1-year focus for continuous integration, which doesn't have any of the engineering allocation work in here, but it's stacked ranked for what we're hoping to accomplish outside of the engineering allocations and the abuse work. So the top 2 epics that we have in here are the bugs for variables, the bugs for artifacts. And then in the second half of the year, we're hoping to actually start shipping some features related to running pipeline activities and improving the experience around debugging jobs and analyzing pipelines. So I'm going to start kicking off some validation for those later 2 epics, hopefully here in Q2 and Q3 with Vitica. Vitica will also start working on a UX scorecard for variables so that we can get a comprehensive understanding of what the current state of variables really are, given that that's such an expansive experience. And we have so many bugs around variables today that it's really, really unpredictable for how users are are reporting their experience with variables. And when I was over in release management, people would often store their secrets in variables. So it'll be interesting to learn how we start to intersect with secrets management in this domain. And if we want to create a comprehensive strategy for how we approach something like secrets management in CI, and if we want to absorb that category, or if we want to create a delineation between that. And that will be a position that I'll want to create as we start to approach that domain. So that's hopefully what I'm going to be taking on in Q2. And then as we hire this new PM in CI, hopefully I'll be able to give that packaged vision to them.
Regarding variables, I'm actually getting a lot of issues in pipeline authoring that revolves around like variable expansion. I'm not sure if some of those bugs are related. I haven't looked into those, but I know that the runner team, they have a solution for like expanding variable infinitely, because I think now we only pass a variable to one level down, like for instance in parent-child pipeline, things like that. So it's worth looking at their solution and maybe propose to some of our users to lift the feature flag and see if it solved their problem. Because we've seen it actually solving some problems, some bugs that they've reported around variables. I can actually link the feature flag issue to the agenda doc, just like an FYI.
Who wants to talk a little bit about their Q2 priorities next?
Sorry, I can go on mute. I can do that. Sorry, Jackie. I was trying to add it in here.
You're good. Go for it.
As always, anytime you copy and paste, it does this weird linking thing. So let me just find the first one, and let me add a link to the epic. Sorry, I'm so slow this morning. All right, so that's the first one. So and that I created a few weeks ago as a way to kind of just consolidate some of the moving parts to kind of like get some structure in terms of what's happening with Runner. So it's not perfect, but it was just at least trying to capture some of the big block items in at least for the remainder of FY22. I guess the only thing to call out in there right now is that around the variables theme, there is this expand variable handling capabilities in GitLab CI Epic, which is currently sitting there. The only reason it came on the runner was because a few months ago, we didn't have the bandwidth in CI to do it. And because to those point, the runner team picked up the nested variable feature, we just kind of popped, but I don't think it actually belongs on the runner. As a matter of fact, Elliot got pinged by T-Mobile yesterday on a feature proposal. They put it in the runner team and he just moved it this yesterday evening to CI. Anyway, so maybe it's something else to think about. So that's that was the initial thinking in terms of FY22. I think the only thing to call out in this epic that I'm concerned about for runner for FY22 is two things to call out. One is the first class support for Podman in Runner is probably not going to happen because our testing found that there were a lot of our testing and work with Red Hat engineering and Red Hat's product management. We found some gaps in Podman, so it's not a quote unquote drop-in replacement for Docker. We'll see if Red Hat can fix it, but right now I'm not that in. I feel that that's kind of a lower probability of making it in FY22, even though a lot of people on Red Hat need this solution. And the other big thing to call out in terms of this big bucket for FY22, Jackie, which sort of, I'm not going to use any big language. It's kind of related to the scaling and kind of related to the appdexon.com in a weird kind of roundabout way. Is this auto scaling provider? You just merged MR this morning, I believe, around the competitive stuff. And then for Dove and for James to give you a high level how it all comes together. Today on GitLab.com, to keep it simple, we use the GitLab runner with the Docker machine executor to autoscale.com. A lot of our customers also use that GitLab runner with Docker machine executor to autoscale their self-managed fleets, right? That Docker machine piece of code is no longer being maintained by Docker machine people or the Docker folks for like a couple of years now. We've been maintaining our own folks. So this epic, which we've been talking about since I joined, was like, hey, what are we going to do to get off of Docker machine, right? And so we're still using Docker machine. We're still adding stuff to it. We're obviously doing a bunch of things within .com, but it may not necessarily be the thing we want to stick with for both the customers and .com. So that's my biggest fear in terms of like, like to Jackie's point, everybody's focused on rapid actions right now and stuff. I mean, when do we pivot to actually focus on tackling this? And it's so interwoven with other things like, hey, do you change it for .com? And it's a different solution for the customers, blah, 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 blah. Don't know. And then the only other thing I want to add really fast, and I'll stop hugging the oxygen, is I created this new epic. Shoot, I lost it already. I am so, no, I found it. Oh, goodness. I created this new epic yesterday. Started add it in here. I said, oh, every time I do that, it does this like crazy thingy. So let's make it small. And
you were just really excited about that epic, Darren.
I am just super excited. I am so like to the moon, like more work.
We need to prioritize job execution.
So this is kind of one of those things that kind of like variables too. Some of this is probably on the CI, but yesterday I just created this epic because it was like so many different, I felt like there were so many different pings about tagging and the use of tags. Yeah. So I was like, and prioritization. So I just created this. Yes, I don't know. Like, for example, really fast, I don't know where all of this work fits in terms of priority. I can only say that issue number 329344 in this epic, the one called namespace or protected tags, that brainstorm was a quick brainstorm because of a discussion and an issue that just so, and I wasn't even paying attention. It was like, we got pinged the issue by Sophie. She said, hey, a customer needs a solution. And then I looked at it, I was like, no, that's not the solution. The solution is this thing Aaron pointed out. We jumped on the call yesterday with Sophie's customer, which happens to be a big customer. And they're like, oh, we're the one who wants this problem. So that namespace or protected tags thing, we might have to figure out a way to do that sooner rather than later, even though nothing in this whole bucket of work is prioritized. So that's kind of my quick run and brain dump. Oh, and some of the CI stuff really should belong on the CI, all this tagging stuff. So again, just a placeholder.
Yeah, so in pipeline authoring, we have a couple of areas where we want to focus on this coming quarter. Obviously, we'll continue the work on the new pipeline editor. I've shared this with the global team. Sorry, our team, is that we've seen an increased adoption for users that are using our pipeline editor. Can share the systems chart later, but we are growing in terms of like the amount of unique users that are interacting with the pipeline editor, which is very promising. See that this is a very needed capability that was missing in GitLab. So definitely continue the work on the epic on that editor. We have a lot of things where we want to improve in terms of like additional capabilities for like supporting onboarding of new users. So we have like an MVC. I can link the epics afterward. I have an MVC for we call it like the pipeline drawer, where whenever you will open your pipeline editor, you will see like a drawer with some meaningful insights or meaningful information about how you can get started with a new pipeline, because we all know the soon we'll get our user to get to the first green pipeline, more likely for them to continue to use our GitLab CI, especially the first one. And so this is the first priority that we'll focus on, like as a part of the pipeline editor. The second big thing that I think is pretty, I would say it's a big change for our users, will be, it maybe sounds simple, but it's not, is to allow need to refer to a job in the same stage. That's the name of the actual issue. It's an issue, but it's pretty big. I mean, today, the need dependencies between job have the limitation that you can only need a job that exists in different stage. And we want to basically drop that limitation. So you'll be able to you can link need dependencies between job, regardless of the stage they're at. And this is pretty drastic or dramatic for our users, because it means that we are basically breaking the stage complex. So there will be no need for stages when users will start defining their pipeline. And for years, we've been using stages as a way to control when certain jobs will run and set like specific execution order. But I would say that this like one issue is actually allow users to use like stageless pipeline. So working a little bit with marketing, obviously drafting a blog, we'll take our time on releasing this feature because we understand that this is a major change and want to make sure a lot of our engineers will have their eyes on that. There were some concerns, I know, about this feature, but the POC was successful. So this is a big change for CI. It's actually, this is the way that GitHub Action is working. So yeah, I probably there will be like more follow-ups on this specific issue. We have already one when we like identified that the front end is, so think about it, like you will have like one stage. So how will a pipeline will look like? We like a really big vertical, a pipeline. So this is why we introduced like a different type of visualization. So there will be like a lot of things that we need to do, like in order to adapt to that new style. And honestly, I think that once we'll have this capability available, we may end up like in like a year or two from now, people will stop using stages even. It could be that dramatic. But I mean, more for that once we release this feature. So yeah, and I can link the issues that I just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely, so that we can take a look at those in the future. I really appreciate you walking through that. Feels like we have so much to do. I'm excited for our upcoming quarter. Thank you all for telling me about y'all's plans. 2B SaaS first theme. So we have this initiative in our fiscal year 22 product direction, and I'll link it here. It's called SaaS First, and we're having this kind of cultural phenomena that's coming in hot for GitLab, and it's this SaaS First focus, which is we're committed to developing our ethic around GitLab.com. And this means driving feature parity that is on self-managed to GitLab.com, a renewed focus on availability and performance. And why we're doing this is because we are really noticing that there's a huge opportunity for enterprise customers, for the market, and people wanting to not manage their own software services. So it really is important for us to start investing in that opportunity, because the more that we can manage other people's services for them, the better our product is going to perform, the more that they're going to pay for our product, and the more consumption prices like artifacts and minutes are going to be on GitLab, right? So I wanted to highlight this for you all because there's going to be a couple things that come out of Q2 that we'll need to support. One of them is error budgets. So we'll be having a new product PI integrated into our ops PI review. It'll be a minutes-based performance metric. Darren has a special one that he'll be accountable for too. It's going to be an SLO that he's responsible for runner on AppDex. And there'll probably be some other things that end up coming up as we start to monitor and manage availability and performance. Any questions or thoughts?
I'm still
Yeah.
I'm still confused slightly about the error budgets. I mean, in layman's terms, how we plan to use error budgets?
So how I've used them in the past is on a regular basis. If you use a SaaS product and you're releasing continuously to it, you would check after a release, because it's a lagging metric, to see how your releases are impacting your availability metrics. And if your downtime is being impacted by your releases, you should have leading indicators like mean time to resolution, and see how those metrics are interplaying. And what we're trying to go toward is maintaining a 99.95 availability percentage in Q2. So that's our target, is just to have that percentage of uptime across GitLab.com. And what we should be doing in response to that is prioritizing things like infra dev issues or doing root cause analysis on what causes downtime. So this will be, hey, scalability, you'll submit an issue. I noticed a dip in my availability after I released these features. Can you help me root cause analysis this dip? And sometimes scalability would then come back with a solution or root cause analysis on what features, what APIs, what things have happened, and that might require you to do refactors or roll back features or do changes. Best case scenario is that you aren't spending your budget, or you're maintaining your budget, and you're able to prioritize, features and develop in cadence, right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see how we think it's going to work in terms of tactically. But okay, I'll kind of like do some more reading on some of the related issues and stuff.
Right. Other things that I've done with air budgets, I've been in places where I've had like 5-minute air budgets before, and I've been like held contractually to 5 nines, and that's like, like super high availability SaaS products, and that's whenever you need really performant systems and you're doing really high your high prioritization for redundancy, for setting up failover systems, disaster recovery. We ended up creating super redundant systems and creating new partnerships with GCP and AWS, and a really robust technical roadmap in order to produce that 5.9 SLA, not even SLO, to support that kind of infrastructure. I'm not quite sure we'll get to that point, but that's how I was held to an error budget at my prior company.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I was just kind of thinking in terms of the tactically, because it's it's product management, it's engineering, it's SRE here at GitLab, and how all those three are going to work together with this concept. So interesting.
So that kind of brings me to the next point. There's this issue that I have open called the United model in Verify, where we're waiting for an infrastructure delegate from engineering team so that we have like a stable counterpart from engineering that is an assigned infrastructure person so that we can ask questions and have like a shared KPI ownership. We were asked by a Anoop to test out this new united leadership model at the stage level. We currently have the united leadership at the product, like function organization level. So we'll test it at the verify stage level. The idea is we'll pick some sort of goal to chase at the year, and we'll have an organizational alignment with these various leaders to make that happen. We're still waiting for an infrastructure delegate, but I think in part that infrastructure delegate would help us execute on something like error budgets effectively. Because if we don't have those kinds of people, then we won't get, I can imagine that it would be really hard to execute on a plan effectively if we're unable to say, infrastructure, help me attain this 99.95 if we're in a queue behind everybody else, right?
How's this different from just getting aligned on OKRs though?
So the intent here is that you set a longer term horizon than just a quarter. So it'll be for like a full year with this group. So it's,
Hey, we're gonna have questions then about how do you balance things that fall under this united model with your OKRs, or do we ensure that the OKRs roll up to this?
yes.
It just seems like it's yet another layer of things that we have to deal with as product and incoming OKRs for various other groups that we're going to have to expend energy pushing back on to say, nope, sorry, this priority is our number one priority this quarter based on our group's united model and where we want to go.
And I think that's what this united model is supposed to help us help us exclude to. It's supposed to be deferential. Like we would say, oh, we're in this united model, so we're unable to contribute to these other OKRs because we are going to be focused on attaining our 500K SMAU in 1 year on .com, which is going to help us drive to 99.95 availability or accomplish 20 million builds or whatever our North Star is going to be across these teams. I would like us to find like something that intersects it all, right? If we're driving toward an exclusive .com metric, then I think that intersects all of it. The SaaS first, the availability metric, the scaling metric, and then we can funnel in the features that are going to drive that. We can funnel in the infrastructure component that's going to drive that. We can get the business cases, the acquisitions that are going to need to underpin that. We just have to get the alignment, and then we can say no to everything else that doesn't drive that metric, because that's what we need. We need to say no to the shit to the stuff that's gonna compete with that, you know. And if SaaS first is really what the company wants us to do, we need to find the metric that's going to get us to SaaS first, and then everything else is gone, right? To me. I know that we're over time, but I wanted to call attention to this MR that I have out, which is moving artifacts over to testing, which is a first increment to the team proposal. It's one small iteration. James, feel free to say no. So just, it's a backlog balancing maneuver. It's a pass toward it That way, when we backfill this CI PM, it really helps them have a more realistic handle on the landscape. I was going to do variables to pipeline authoring, but I'm a little hesitant at the front end, back end distribution for that, because pipeline authoring has a lot of front end stuff right now. So I didn't want to overload the front end on pipeline authoring. And then the back end, you only have a couple people. So I was really hesitant to do that.
Yeah,
And
I think those features require like the right domain experts to be in the team. Not that we don't have those, but feels like that if we move that, we'll need to move people with.
Yeah. So right now we wouldn't move people. We would just be moving the scope. So we can iterate more in that merge request on if there's other things to consider moving. And James, feel free to push back and say, no, we're all ears on this. And then I'll be opening up an issue to talk more about this verify front end proposal. I think that there's an opportunity to more holistically think about our front end team and maybe have the front end team pull from a board instead of from their own team's board. So that when they're blocked by their group's backend, they can then go to a verify board and pull from front end verified and team scope that's ready for them to work on. And that way they can maybe work on testing scope that's ready or runner scope that's ready. And or pipeline authoring scope that's ready, that's groomed, that has an issue, that has a proposal on it. And that way we can have more fluidity of delivery and then ship it. But I'll open up that issue for y'all's review and we can see that. That way we're not like realigning front end engineers across verify, but we can ship more front end work and not have a bottleneck. Any questions, thoughts?
I like the direction of that. I think that's interesting in terms of what it can do for us by looking holistically at the problem space.
Yeah. I don't
Did
really
we have that set up previously for front end and verify? Maybe that was
No.
before like the groups as they are today formed up, before we had CI testing and runner, where there was just kind of, at least between CI and testing, there was a bit of a pool of front end engineers for a while.
Maybe. But when I asked Darby, he said that he didn't seem to. It seemed like a novel idea when I asked Darby about it. But I'll he could have just been flattering me. So I'll create the issue and we'll see if.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your engagement and sharing everything and for staying a little bit late. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I know we talked about some meaty topics here, so I'll post the recording. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jackie.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.